Hello, my name is Jay Bear, and welcome back to episode 17 of my survival series. As you can see in the background, I have done a little bit of work since the last episode, and I do have a little bit of a time lapse to hold still, horse. See that he was rearing up. Anyway, I do have a little bit of a time lapse to show some of the work that I did down there. I was away for Thanksgiving and did not have a chance to do any recording. I had recorded a creative episode which I had uploaded while I was away, but I did have a little bit of time to play while I was away and did some work just going around building some roads, organizing, and built a building around the tree farm. And I will show that in a little bit more detail in the time lapse. But I also got this guy in my last episode as well. In the last episode I built the tree farm. I captured this skeleton horse. There's another one over here, and maybe I'll go get him later. But one other thing I did while I was away between episodes is I built some water channels here that will take all of the items from the tree farm and take them and send them right down into my storage system. And if you're not familiar with the way these water streams work, is items will obviously flow along the water stream, but what happens is the water can only go 8 blocks and it'll come to this point here, and the items will slide right across the ice over into another water stream, and the trapdoor is here to prevent this water from flowing back that direction. And so we're able to create these nice streams of water that will automatically take the items and send them over into my storage system. I've also been using the tree farm to harvest some trees, and if I head over into my storage system, I can show you what I've gathered so far. So I have been doing some tree harvesting. I have quite a bit of oak, quite a bit of spruce, a little bit more birch, and hardly any jungle. I don't know what happened with the jungle trees. I just wasn't getting enough saplings back, and so I wasn't really able to harvest many of them automatically. I did put a little bit of a road down through here, and I did this to the bee farm because the honey and honeycomb farm. I do have lots and lots of honeycomb, and I thought I would change this up, and I did have to put glass on top because iron golems were spawning, and so I couldn't just make the whole front of it honeycomb. I'm not sure if I like it yet. I don't really like the way this looks right now. I will probably do something more with this. Put a little bit of a road here. I hid some of the hoppers with some trapdoors. Started some work back here. I'm not done back here yet. But I also made it so that any items that flow in here and do not go into storage will go down into a composter, and the bone meal will automatically be sent over into the tree farm. So I have an automatic bone meal farm, but it's probably not enough bone meal. And that's one thing I'm thinking about doing this episode, is building a bone meal farm. But for now, we're going to go ahead and go into a time lapse of some of the work that I did while I was away, and I'm going to be talking a little bit throughout the time lapse to explain some of what I was doing. Here you can see the tree farm running a little bit, and it actually works really well. I had no problems with it until I turned it off and back on too quickly. And you can see the first piece of TNT falls, and then the second one does not, and blows it up. And so I had to climb back up and rebuild everything up top. But I also found that I did not need the delayed dropping mechanism, and I could just drop it down onto the obsidian. But I had to go out and kill some creepers to gather up some more gunpowder because I did not have enough gunpowder to make any more TNT, and I figured while I'm out hunting creepers, I might as well gather up as much as I could. And then I came back, reloaded the TNT into the system, got everything back up and running, and did not blow it up again, and it's been working fine ever since. And then I decided to start building a safe building around the AFK spot, just so I'm safe. That way any mobs that may wander by won't attack me. And then I just kept building. I built a road, and then I just continued building the building around the tree farm. And I wanted something that looked like an industrial factory type of place, and so I used bricks and granite and polished granite blocks to make it look like an old industrial type of building. When I got to this part here, I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do to enclose this portion of the build, and I ultimately did not like how it looked, so I tore it down and just built kind of a iron polished diorite portion of the building to make it look like maybe like a square silo. Alright, so I'm standing outside my tree farm, and you can see from the time lapse the building that I put up around it. And I'll probably add some more detail to this eventually. Maybe I'll do something about covering up some of these things, just because there are little bits of redstone visible. There's some stuff up here, but for now it's good enough. And I can come down over here into this room, and I can put down saplings. Let's turn this on. And I can watch the trees blow up. And everything will automatically go right into the water and over into my storage system. So I've got a safe place in here that I can go AFK. I can toss items into storage. I can sleep when necessary. And then I've got a back door here, just a little bit of a stone patio area here that I come into the blast chamber if necessary. I shouldn't have to come in here very much. Oh, look at that. I wonder how many times that happens. Oh well, it's probably not that big a deal. And if we take a look here from the back, I do have this little area of detail here sticking out because the first time I turned it on, once I put the building up, it blew a hole right here, so I had to move that wall back a little bit. And over here there's another door. Kind of leads in just to where all the redstone everything is, just in case I need to get to it. This water channel here, this is where the bone meal flows in. Any overflow from all of my farms that will not make it into my storage system because it's full will go into a composter, which will automatically send the bone meal over into here, and it'll go into this chest and then over into the system. And so when I need to load it up with bone meal, I can just come in here and I can put a bunch more bone meal in there. I've also done a little work with some roads and some stairs and things like that. And if we go over here, earlier I showed that I had started working on this area, and I just kind of enclosed this area behind the hoppers because I was kind of using this as a bedroom. Whenever I was over here next to the villagers and I needed to sleep, I would just run back over here and I had a bed. Well, I've kind of turned it into a room now with some stone around, just kind of cleaned some of the stuff up that was sitting around, cleaned up this area a little bit. I still have a lot of the scaffolding and stuff in place because I'm still not done with the villager trading hall. I might swap some of them out eventually, but for now this is looking a lot cleaner now that we've got all the hoppers covered up and things. So I'm liking how this is starting to come together, and it's looking a little bit better. But one thing with the overflow from this, where it goes into the composter, is it's definitely not going to be enough bone meal to support much use of the tree farm. And so I'm thinking that's what I'm going to build next. Over in this area is I'm going to build some type of bone meal farm. And the type that I'm thinking of is going to be a potato farm that makes baked potatoes that go into composters. It's a very highly efficient farm, but I'm going to need a lot of fuel for that as well. And so I'm thinking I'll make a kelp farm so I can make dried kelp. So it's going to be 2 farms, and I think they're going to go over here. I don't know if I'll get both of them done in this episode, but I think that's what I'm going to start working on next over in this area. Alright, so I'm on my way over to pick up some ice. I need that in order to build the kelp farm. I already did some digging, and I am going to get some ice because I need to fill a big area with water, and I think it's going to be easier to use ice to do that. And I came across some horses. Well, as you can see, I brought horse armor and a saddle, hoping that I would come across some horses. And so I'm going to try to tame one of these guys. Let's go with this guy here. Because it's just going to make things like this where I have to run way over to an area to get ice go a lot faster for me. There we go. Alright, so he is tamed. And now we can run around a lot more quickly. Now I know I have the bone horse. Let's see, we gotta go this way to get to the ice. I have that horse, but it's not really all that fast. I guess I should have brought a lead just in case I fall in the water and get dismounted and have to rescue the horse. This is just going to make traveling around a little bit faster when I'm traveling on land. And when I travel by boat, it's usually pretty quick to get around going in the water on boat, but this will make it faster to go on land. And there's a donkey right there, which wouldn't be bad to have, but I have no way to get him back right now, so maybe I will mark that on the map and come back here another time. And in fact, I'm going the wrong way. Alright, anyway, I'm going to go get myself some ice. Alright, so I've gathered up all the ice that I think I'm going to need. Well, actually I just gathered up a bunch of it because it's just so easy to gather up a bunch of it really fast. And, you know, now I have plenty of ice for a while. I mean, I don't know how much I'm going to need for what I need it for right now, but I just gathered up a bunch of it. Anyway, look how much faster this is getting around using a horse. I really should have taken time to tame them much earlier on than this, and I've seen them wandering around from time to time. I have been meaning to tame a horse, and finally this time when heading out from my base I remembered to bring a saddle with me and found these horses. And look how much faster this is. I mean, I'm almost back to my base. You know, I've been running here for, what, about a minute? That's how long it took me to get back over here since I am running with a horse. It's just so much faster. And so I think maybe I'll go back eventually and tame some of those other horses. You know, just this one here was pretty quick, so I'm pretty happy with that. Alright, so this is the tank where I will be growing kelp. And I have to fill this whole thing with water. And let's see, starting from this level right down here, I believe. And, whoops, that's not what I meant to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some ice down here on this level. And then I'm going to go through and put torches on it so that all of this will melt. And hopefully fill this level completely with water. And then I'm going to go down and plant kelp underneath of it to turn the flowing water into water source blocks. Alright, so now I'm just going to go along and put torches on all of these to make them melt. And I think once this corner area all melts and starts merging together, that's where we should get the automatic filling up of it. But I'm not sure if it works at a height or if it needs to be down on ground level, so I don't know if this will work or not. I guess we're going to find out soon. Well, unfortunately, this doesn't look like it's working the way I expected. I'm going to have to look up a better way to do this. Okay, I'm not making much progress here. So what I'm going to do now is I am just going to fill the whole top layer with ice. I did try putting some kelp down, and it does work a little bit, but it means I'd have to fill the entire thing with kelp. And I don't have enough kelp to do that. So I probably have enough ice to fill this whole top layer, and then melt all of this, and then we'll have flowing water underneath. But I'll still have to, it's still going to be tricky, isn't it? I think no matter how I do this, it's going to be tricky. I don't think there is a very easy way to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and place in all of these blocks and melt them, and let's see if we can get this thing built somehow. Alright, so I've put all the ice in, and I've put torches down, and it is very quickly melting the ice. And so that means we have water source blocks on top and flowing water underneath. And if I go down and put kelp down in the flowing water, it will convert those into source blocks. But I don't know if, like, let's say we go right down here and put kelp here. I don't know if that will grow up by itself. Let's go ahead and just cover the whole floor of this in kelp and see if any of these will grow. If they grow on their own, or do they need to have source blocks to grow into? I don't know. Alright, so I went around and placed kelp along the bottom everywhere, and it is growing even in the flowing water blocks, and so it should be growing up and converting those into source blocks. And so I think we will have this thing completely filled with water source blocks eventually, but you know what? It might not even be necessary, so I can probably go ahead and start building the next part just because these are growing on their own. You know, I don't need to go in and do them all individually to get them all to turn into source blocks. It's just they're growing up and turning them into source blocks. So I can probably just go ahead and continue building and move on to the next step of this. Okay, so you can see behind me here, I have the kelp farm built. It actually ended up working out the way that I had hoped that it would as far as putting the water in place. Oh, and by the way, this is a design by Il Mango. And so before I was talking about putting ice blocks on top and melting them, and then placing kelp down below so that the kelp would grow up through the flowing water and convert it into water source blocks, and that ended up working out perfectly. And they all grew up while I was putting in all of these signs. That was pretty difficult to do. I found that putting on frostwalker boots and walking around on top of the water ended up helping quite a bit. And then I had to put the water streams in on top that will push the items over into this collection system here. And I just noticed a little flaw with my system. If any kelp falls directly, whoops, I didn't mean to fall there. If any kelp my keys are messed up. Sometimes my keys get stuck, and it's not sticky keys. It's a very frustrating thing, and just made me walk off the ledge there. Anyway, if any of it falls directly on this ice block, it's just going to sit here. So I'm going to have to do something about that and make sure that any kelp that falls here will make its way over there. So I'm going to have to change this collection system a little bit. While I'm down here, let's go in here and take a look. This is the flying machine that will go through and knock down all of the kelp, and then it will float up to the surface, and it will like I said, come over into this collection system, and then it will go down there to the bubble elevator, and it'll go into a chest. At least for now, until I can get the smelting system put in place, which I have not built yet. But I'm ready to give this thing a test. I have not put one component in down here, which will trigger the flying machine to go, and that's an observer that goes right here. So I'm going to put that in place now. And then up top, I have a switch. It's a switch that will turn it on and off. And if we flip that switch, it should trigger it, and we should hear the pistons start moving. Yep, and there we go. We can see the flying machine going through. And all of the kelp is floating up to the top and falling down into here, which I've got a handful of it now. Although some of it is staying in there. I wonder why. That's something I'm going to have to look into, is why some of the kelp is staying in there. And like I said, you can see some of it is getting stuck on these ice blocks because they're not being pushed. Is my inventory completely filled with... Oh, wow. It is. Let's go ahead and throw that into the water so I can collect the pieces that are stuck here. Now that was, of course, a full harvest where every kelp block was grown up to its maximum height. They won't always be that way. Sometimes some of them might be completely fully grown, but that won't be normal for all of them to be fully grown, because this thing should automatically activate with a daylight sensor once per day and harvest automatically. So now let's go. Oh, there's some of that floating up. I wonder why it was stuck before, but it's moving now. Anyway, let's go take a look and see if... Yeah, see, that's one thing I was worried about, is my collection system down here is not picking it up fast enough. So I'm going to need to make changes to that as well, because this hopper is probably not... Oh, they're all completely filled. Yeah, so I just picked up what was there when I climbed up here. So I think I'm going to need to... Well, maybe I won't need to make this a bigger system, because every harvest will not be as big as that one was. Some of them will be, only partially grown. Some of them will be fully grown. It'll be different every single time it harvests. And so I probably will be okay with this. If not, then I will do something to increase the collection system. But I might just want more of a collection system to get it into the system faster. And I do have 16 smokers that I'm going to use to turn it into dried kelp. And I kind of wonder if that's going to be enough. I don't know. I'm going to have to try that out. But anyway, that's all I have time for in this episode. And I've got this kelp farm. I still got a little bit of work to do, as I mentioned. And today we found ourselves a horse, and we built this building here. So quite a few things in this episode. So if you liked it, please leave a like and a comment. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And I'll see you next time.